Guys, the moment you clicked on this video, I know you were probably thinking, which influencer is milking their misery for views now? But today, every word of the story I'm about to tell you is stained with blood and tears. It was at a wedding church in Beverly Hills. The moment I nodded, when the pastor asked if I would marry Zachary, I never imagined that the man I had loved for 10 years, would, in the very next second, personally push me into hell. The sun was incredibly harsh that day, casting dappled light through the stained glass windows onto the red carpet. I was wearing a Vera wedding dress, and the white roses in my bouquet still clung to the morning dew. Zachary stood before the altar, his blue eyes like the waters of lake. I could even count the tiny glints of light on his eyelashes, until Eleanor burst in, covering her mouth, the hem of her beige dress covered in grass clippings, her belly distended as if she'd tucked a basketball inside. "Zach," her voice trembled like leaves in an autumn wind, veins throbbing on the back of her hand, "I can't live without you, and neither can our child." Zachary's hand instantly pulled away from mine. The pearl buttons on his suit cuff dug into my palm, and the web of my hand went numb. He rushed to embrace Eleanor with the speed of a cheetah pouncing on its prey, his custom leather shoes scraping a harsh sound across the marble floor. I watched him lower his head and kiss her. The kiss lasted so long I thought the whole world had stopped, with only the lingering echo of the organ buzzing in the church, like countless hornets swarming in my ears. "Ellie, I was an asshole." He rested his forehead against the top of her head, his voice raspy like sandpaper rubbing against wood. "I should have gotten down on one knee at the party in the Hamptons last year." Then he turned, and his blue eyes no longer held any trace of me. When he ripped the diamond ring from my ring finger, the platinum band scraped against my fingertip. A bead of blood instantly welled up, dripping onto the white skirt of my wedding dress like a bizarre red rose. Just like that, he knelt before Eleanor and slipped the ring I'd waited 3 years for onto her finger, his movements so tender they could draw water. "Consider this wedding my apology," he said, looking up, his eyelashes glistening with moisture. "In my next life, I will definitely marry you." As threw herself into his arms, the crinoline of her wedding dress almost tripped me. When she turned to look at me, Zachary's lipstick mark was still on the corner of her mouth, and her voice was sickly sweet. "Evelyn, since I can't be Zach's wife in this life, you'll have to take good care of him for me." The whispers around me surged like a tide, and my aunt's pearl earrings dangled, dazzling under the lights. I saw Zachary's mother, Mrs. Hayes, pull out a handkerchief to cover her mouth, her eye wrinkles full of schadenfreude. My cousins clinked their champagne glasses together, the sound of the ice cubes clinking like a mockery of my distress. I stared at their embracing backs, then suddenly burst out laughing, tears streaming down my cheeks and into my mouth, salty and bitter. Next life. I tore off my veil, and the pearl hairpins bounced to the ground, rolling far away. "This kind of pathetic jerk, I wouldn't even wish him on you." The hem of my wedding dress tangled around my ankles. I kicked off my high heels, and walked barefoot out of the church. The petals on the red carpet were crushed beneath my feet, much like my heart at that moment. "Evelyn, have you made enough of a scene?" Zachary's voice followed me from behind, laced with his usual impatience. "Who else would want you besides me?" I didn't turn back. I threw the bouquet into a trash can, the thorns of the white roses pricking my fingers, the pain jolting me mostly sober. Just as I reached the church door, he grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong it felt like he wanted to crush my bones. "Let go." I struggled 3 times before breaking free, a red mark immediately appearing on my wrist. Just then, Eleanor suddenly collapsed with a whimper in Zachary's arms, her face as white as paper. Zachary instantly panicked. He scooped her up, and rushed towards the parking lot. As he passed me, his elbow slammed hard into my chest. I stumbled backward, my heel caught in a crack on the steps, and I fell into the nearby hydrangea bushes. The moment the thorns pricked my knee, I heard Mrs. Hayes' voice drift over me, carrying a coolness like iced soda water. "What's with the pretense? You slept with my son for 5 years, did you really think you were some sort of heiress? If hadn't insisted on marrying you, a gold digger like you, trying to change your fate through marriage, wouldn't even get past our back door." I struggled to get up when my mom suddenly rushed over and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into the place where I had been scratched. Her perfume, mixed with the lily scent of the church, made my stomach churn. Your brother's medical school tuition is waiting for these funds for tuition, she hissed, spit flying onto my face. Why aren't you hurrying to the hospital to apologize to Eleanor? As long as you can get into Zachary's family, what does it matter if he sleeps with a few women? Mom, I said, staring at the new pearl earrings behind her ear, a birthday gift I bought with 3 months' salary, I'm not getting married. Her hand suddenly shot up. I instinctively closed my eyes, but the slap never landed on my face. She dragged me by my hair towards the church exit. My hair tie snapped, and my long black hair wrapped around her wrist. You are not getting married. What about your brother? I'm telling you, Evelyn, even if you have to beg, you are going to beg until Zachary forgives you today. The sunlight stung my eyes, and the asphalt in the parking lot was so hot you could fry an egg on it. She shoved me into a taxi, and the wound on the back of my neck scraped against the seat back, making me gasp in pain. My phone vibrated in my bridesmaid's bag. I fumbled for it and saw a text message pop up on the screen. Evelyn, I'm at the back door of the church. If you want to leave, come down now. The sender was Ethan. Tears welled up in my eyes, splashing onto the phone screen, blurring his name into a blue smear. 3 years ago, at my graduation ceremony at New University, he stood at the entrance of the auditorium in his Navy uniform, his military insignia glinting in the sunset. He said, Evelyn, wait for me to come back, but I waited for 3 years, only to receive news of his sacrifice, and then Zachary appeared below my apartment building that night, holding roses. I trembled as I pressed the dial button, and a choked sob escaped me just as I said, hello. I'm here. His voice came through the phone, like an anchor in the deep sea, instantly steadying me. I know where you are. I've already arranged for a driver. Ethan, I bit my lip, tasting blood. I want to go with you. There was a 2-second silence on the other end, then his low laugh, laced with a slight choke. I've waited 10 years to hear you say that. After hanging up, I suddenly felt the tightness in my chest ease. The taxi was passing Santa Boulevard, and the models on the billboards smiled brightly. I told the driver, turn around, take me to Brooklyn, my voice so calm it surprised even myself. Ethan said he needed 3 days to handle the paperwork, and he would wait for me at the City Hall entrance in 3 days. Think carefully, his voice on the phone was serious. Coming with me means leaving everything here, including your family. We might live on a military, winters will be cold, and summers will have mosquitoes. I thought of how my mom had just dragged me by my hair, of Mrs. Hayes' contemptuous gaze, and of the tenderness I had never seen in Zachary's eyes, when he put the ring on Eleanor's finger. I've thought it through. And, he paused, our marriage will be protected by military law. If you regret it. I won't regret it. I interrupted him, looking at the ferry wheel, rushing past outside the car window. Ethan, I've never been so sure of anything, in my life. He laughed, and I heard the rustle of wind, through leaves in the background. Then I'll go apply now. See you in 3 days. When I returned to the apartment in Brooklyn, I turned the key in the lock twice before the door opened. The light in the entryway was out. By the light of the street lamp outside the window, I saw a pair of men's leather shoes on the shoe rack, not my size, but the Oxford shoes Zachary often wore. My heart sank. I fumbled for the switch on the wall, and the fluorescent light flickered a few times, illuminating the scene in the living room. Eleanor was wearing my silk robe, sitting cross-legged on the sofa, the slit of the robe almost reaching her upper thigh. Zachary was kneeling on the carpet, feeding her mango with a spoon. The yellow fruit juice ran down his wrist, dripping onto my freshly cleaned Persian rug. My nails instantly dug into my palms. Zachary was allergic to mangoes, so severely that he could go into anaphylactic shock. Last year, at the vacation house in Miami, I just put half a mango in his salad, and he was wheezing like a bellows, with large red rashes breaking out on his neck. That night, he pinned me against the bathroom mirror, holding antiseptic in his hand, his eyes fierce enough to kill. How many times have I told you I'm allergic? He shoved the bottle opening to my mouth, the pungent smell of antiseptic making my eyes stream with tears. Are you trying to kill me? I was forced to swallow it, and my stomach churned. When I was taken to the emergency, the doctor said my esophagus was corroded, and I couldn't eat any sugary fruits ever again. He stayed by my bedside, holding my hand and crying, his blue eyes swollen like walnuts. "Evelyn, I'm sorry, I lost control, I was just so scared." But now, he was using the same spoon to feed Eleanor mango, even a smile playing on his lips. Eleanor opened her mouth and made an "ah" sound, her finger tracing his wrist, spreading the mango juice even more evenly. "Evelyn's back." Eleanor looked up and smiled at me, the mole near her eye trembling slightly. "The baby said it wanted mango, so Zach bought all the mangoes in new." She patted her belly, and the robe's waistband loosened, revealing suggestive red marks on her chest. "You can eat the rest, they are all imported, very expensive." When looked up at me, his brows furrowed, as if he were looking at a naughty child. "Why are you just standing there? Come sit. Didn't you used to love mangoes?" I watched the red rash gradually appear on his wrist and suddenly felt ridiculous. On stay freshman year, he arranged mangoes into a heart shape outside the dormitory building. It was snowing in February. He wore only a single shirt, his hands bright red from the cold, and he shivered as the juice stung him while he peeled the mangoes. I pulled him into the dormitory building, and he pulled a mango pudding from his pocket, grinning foolishly. "I knew you loved it, so I specially asked the cafeteria to make it." He had an allergic reaction that day but stubbornly refused to go to the hospital, saying he wanted to save money to buy me a birthday present. I stayed by his bedside, watching his chest rise and fall with difficulty breathing, and in my heart, I swore I would love him forever. It turns out vows really do expire. "I'm not eating." I turned and walked towards the bedroom. My suitcase was still in the walk-in closet. Zachary suddenly stood up and grabbed my arm, his grip so strong it felt like he wanted to crush my bones. "What are you throwing a tantrum for now? Eleanor is pregnant, can't you just be a little more accommodating?" His fingers dug into the spot where the ring had cut me yesterday, and beads of blood welled up again. I shook off his hand, looking at his eyes, reddened from the allergy, and said word for word, "The doctor said I can't eat anything sweet anymore." He froze for a moment, then impatiently clicked his tongue. "Just because of that little incident last year. Evelyn, can't you be more mature?" Eleanor suddenly burst into tears, her shoulders shaking. "It's all my fault. If I hadn't come, you wouldn't be fighting. Zach, maybe I should just leave." "What are you talking about, leaving?" Zachary immediately turned to comfort her, his voice so gentle it could wring water. "She's the one being unreasonable, it has nothing to do with you." He helped Eleanor lie down on the sofa, covered her with a blanket, and then turned back to glare at me, still standing there. "Go pour Eleanor a glass of warm milk." I looked at the increasingly red rash on his wrist, and suddenly burst out laughing. "Zachary, have you forgotten that you are allergic to mangoes?" His movements froze, and his face looked a bit unnatural. Eleanor wanted to eat it, I couldn't just disappoint her, could I? "What about me?" My voice trembled. "When I wanted to eat something, you poured antiseptic down my throat. She wants to eat, and you don't care if it kills you." Eleanor suddenly sat up, covering her mouth and coughing. "Oh dear, maybe I shouldn't have eaten it. It's all my fault, I didn't know Zach's allergy was so severe." "It's not your fault." Zachary interrupted her, his eyes like chipped ice. "Evelyn, don't push it." He helped Eleanor up, his tone softening again. "You go back to the room and rest first, I'll talk to her." As left, she deliberately bumped into me, the hem of her robe brushing against my ankle, carrying the sickly sweet scent of mango. Only the two of us were left in the living room. Zachary lit a cigar, and his face appeared strange through the swirling smoke. "Evelyn, I know you are upset." He blew a smoke ring. "But is carrying my child, can't you be a little more understanding?" "Understanding?" I pointed to the mango stain on the carpet. "Watching you two be intimate in my house, using my spoon to feed her the mango you allergic to, you call that understanding?" He stubbed out the cigar in the crystal ashtray with a harsh sound. "Do you have to be so petty? Is our 10 years of history not worth more than this trivial matter?" 10 years of history. I suddenly remembered him holding my hand in the hospital 3 years ago, saying, "I'll only ever love you in this life." Remembered him kneeling on one knee on the London 2 years ago, saying, I'll marry you once my career is stable, remembered him half a year ago, holding wedding dress designs and asking, do you like this style? It turned out none of it counted. Zachary, I took a deep breath. Let's get a divorce. He seemed to hear a joke and suddenly laughed. Divorce? Evelyn, what do you think your life will be like without me? Your brother's tuition, your MOMS mortgage, which of those doesn't require money? He walked over, grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. Stop throwing a tantrum and be obedient. Once has the baby, I'll cut ties with her, and we can go back to how we were. Like before. I looked at the red rash on his wrist and suddenly felt disgusted. Like before, you tell me you love me while getting another woman pregnant. His face darkened, and his hand abruptly let go. I stumbled backward, hitting the coffee table, and my lower back hit the sharp corner, making me gasp in pain. Evelyn, don't be ungrateful. His voice was as cold as ice. If it weren't for the years you've been with me, and your loyalty, do you think I would have let you through this door? I used the coffee table to stand up, the pain in my lower back making it hard to straighten. The neon lights from outside shone through the blinds, casting shifting shadows on his face, making him look like a stranger. I'm moving out tomorrow. I dragged my suitcase towards the door, each step feeling like I was walking on knife edges. You wouldn't dare. He rushed over and grabbed my suitcase. The zipper burst open, and my clothes scattered everywhere. Evelyn, don't forget, your visa is still with me. Mine was indeed with him. Last month, he said he'd help me get a green card and took all my documents. At the time, I was so touched, thinking he finally had plans to spend his life with me. How laughable. Zachary, I said, looking at the anniversary t-shirt he'd given me, scattered among my clothes. I suddenly felt calm. Do you think this can trap me? He froze, probably not expecting me to be so calm. All you want is an obedient pet. I picked up my passport. I'd actually gotten a replacement long ago. Unfortunately, I don't want to be a pet anymore. As I pulled the door open, I heard him roar behind me, get out. Get out. Never come back. The motion sensor light in the hallway came on. I dragged my suitcase up the stairs, the pain in my lower back intensifying. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a text from Ethan, are you asleep? What do you want to eat tomorrow? I'll have the cafeteria prepare it. I leaned against the wall, and tears suddenly streamed down my face. So this is what it feels like to be cherished. The next morning, I was woken by a knock at the door. A hangover-like headache made it hard to open my eyes, and the bruise on my lower back was already purple. I struggled to get up. I looked through the peephole and almost gasped. Zachary stood at the door, holding a bouquet of white roses, and Eleanor leaned against him, wearing my cashmere coat. I was about to pretend I wasn't home, but the door was unlocked with a key. He still had a spare key. Awake. Zachary walked in and put the flowers in the vase in the entryway. Eleanor and I came to pick up some things. Eleanor walked straight to the walk-in closet, opened my wardrobe, and started rummaging. Evelyn, can I borrow your Chanel jacket? The doctor said I should wear loose clothes. When I went to the hospital for my checkup yesterday, I watched her throw my clothes all over the floor, and suddenly felt very tired. Can you two just take what you need and leave? Don't be so cold. Zachary walked over, trying to hug me. I was wrong yesterday, I shouldn't have lost my temper with you. I dodged his embrace, the pain in my lower back making me frown. He noticed my expression and reached out to touch my waist. What's wrong? Are you hurt? None of your business. I stepped back, bumped into the nightstand, and the photo frame on it fell, shattering the glass. It was a photo of us under the Eiffel, him with his arm around my waist, smiling like a child. Zachary's face darkened. Evelyn, do you have to be like this? Eleanor suddenly shrieked, clutching her belly and squatting on the floor. Oh no, my stomach hurts so much. Zach, I think I'm going into labor. Zachary immediately rushed over and picked her up, the urgency in his eyes something I had never seen before. Hold on, I'll take you to the hospital right now. As they hastily left, Eleanor deliberately dropped my Chanel jacket on the floor, and Zachary stepped on it, his heel leaving a clear mark. The moment the door closed, I slumped to the floor, looking at the mess all around, and suddenly burst out laughing. My phone rang. It was the hospital calling. The nurse said my mom fainted yesterday at the church entrance, and was now in the emergency. When I arrived at the hospital, my mom was lying in the hospital bed on an IV drip, and Mrs. Hayes was sitting on a nearby chair, holding an Hermes bag, her nails painted bright red. "Well, you finally showed up," Mrs. Hayes said, rolling her eyes when she saw me. "Your mother almost gave her life for you." My mom opened her eyes, and upon seeing me, began to cry. "Evelyn, just listen to your mother and apologize to Zachary. Your brother is still waiting for the money for his tuition." "Mom," I interrupted her, "I've decided. I'm not getting married." "What did you say?" She abruptly sat up, pulling off her IV line. "You are not getting married. What about your brother?" "I'm telling you, Evelyn, if you don't bring Zachary back today, I'll die right here in front of you." Mrs. Hayes fanned the flames beside her. "Evelyn, it's not for me to say, but a woman should always have some tolerance. Zach has been good enough to you. Look how filial he is to your mother. He paid $50,000 for her hospital bills yesterday, just like that." I looked at the designer bag on my mom's nightstand. Mrs. Hayes had just given it to her, and suddenly understood something. That $50,000 was money to buy my apology to Eleanor, wasn't it? My mom's face instantly went pale, and Mrs. Hayes' smile froze. "You two can chat." I turned and walked out, the pain in my lower back making my steps a little unsteady. As I reached the door of the hospital room, I heard Mrs. Hayes say, "Your daughter is spoiled rotten. Later, I'll have Zach teach her a good lesson." I didn't look back and walked straight into the elevator. The mirror in the elevator reflected my face. The dark circles under my eyes were like a panda's, and my lips were chapped and peeling. I touched the bruise on my lower back, and suddenly felt deeply wronged. What exactly had I been holding on to for these past 10 years? My phone rang. It was a video call request from Ethan. I answered it. He was wearing camouflage, with a desert in the background, and the wind was blowing his hair into a mess. "What's wrong? You look terrible." His brows instantly furrowed. "I'm fine," I smiled, not wanting him to worry. "Just didn't sleep well." He stared at my face for a long time, then suddenly said, "Did bully you? Tell me the address, I'll be there right now." "Don't be silly," I interrupted him. "There are still 2 days left. Focus on getting your paperwork done." He sighed. "All right. By the way, I sent my buddy to pick you up. His name is Jack. He's wearing a black jacket and waiting for you at the hospital entrance." "How did you know I was at the hospital?" "I have my ways." He smiled, the fine lines around his eyes looking attractive. "Don't wander off, wait for me to come back." I hung up and walked out of the hospital entrance. Sure enough, I saw a man in a black jacket waving at me. He was driving an SUV, and there was a thermos on the passenger seat. "Ethan asked me to bring this, for you." Jack handed me the thermos. He said, "Your stomach isn't good, and you should have some soup." The contained pumpkin soup, warm and subtly sweet. I sat in the passenger seat, drinking it mouthful by mouthful, and tears suddenly streamed down my face. Someone remembered my sensitive stomach, someone remembered I couldn't eat sweets, someone took my words to heart. Jack dropped me off at the hotel Ethan had booked in advance. Before leaving, he handed me a gun. "Ethan said it's for self-defense, he doesn't feel at ease." I looked at the cold pistol, and suddenly felt a sense of peace. For the next 2 days, Zachary called me every day, his calls ranging from anger to desperate pleading. He said Eleanor had lost the baby, that he knew he was wrong, and that he just wanted to be with me, and live a good life. I didn't answer a single call. On the 3rd morning, I changed into the new dress Ethan had bought me, put on some light makeup, and walked to the City Hall entrance. Ethan stood on the steps in his military uniform, the sunlight glinting off his shoulder insignia, too bright to look at directly. He saw me, quickly walked down, and took my hand. His palm was sweaty, and his hand was trembling. "I thought you wouldn't come." His voice was slightly choked. "I told you I'd wait for you." I looked up at him, the sunlight falling perfectly on his eyelashes, as if they were rimmed with gold. As soon as we walked into the City Hall, we heard Zachary's voice from behind us. "Evelyn, stop right there." He rushed over, trying to grab me, but Ethan pushed him away. Ethan shielded me, his eyes as cold as ice. "Zachary, watch your words." "Ethan." Weren't you dead? Zachary's eyes widened like brass bells, his face filled with disbelief. Thanks to you, I didn't die. Ethan's voice held a lethal edge. 3 years ago in Afghanistan, who hired the mercenaries? I think you know better than I do. Zachary's face instantly paled, his lips trembling, unable to speak. Eleanor suddenly emerged from behind him, her belly still just as big, a triumphant smile on her face. Evelyn, even if you bring a dead man to steal the groom, it's useless. Zach loves me. She hooked her arm through Zachary's, deliberately thrusting out her belly. We are here to get our marriage certificate today. Zach said he'd give me a grand wedding, after the baby is born. Zachary seemed to suddenly snap back to reality, grabbing my arm. Evelyn, don't believe him. He's a liar. You can't just break off our many years of history like this. His nails dug into my flesh, making me wince. Ethan pulled me behind him, and punched Zachary in the face. Zachary stumbled back a few steps, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He wiped his mouth, then suddenly laughed. Evelyn, do you think he truly loves you? He's a murderer. 3 years ago in Afghanistan, he killed so many people. Enough. Ethan's voice was like thunder. Do you think no one knows about the things you've done? Smuggling weapons, hiring mercenaries. Zachary, you are going to jail. Zachary's face turned completely white. He looked at me, his eyes full of pleading. Evelyn, I was wrong. Please forgive me this one time, okay? I'll give you all my assets. I'll do whatever you say. It's too late. I looked at him, suddenly feeling like he was a complete stranger. Zachary, what was between us ended a long time ago. I linked arms with Ethan and walked into the registration office. The clerk smiled and handed us the forms, and sunlight streamed through the window, casting warm light on our marriage certificate. As we walked out of the city hall, Zachary was still standing at the bottom of the steps, like an abandoned child. Eleanor was swearing beside him, calling him useless. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Zachary suddenly rushed over, trying to grab me, but he was stopped by the police. When he was handcuffed, he was still shouting my name. Evelyn, I'll come back for you. I didn't look back. I linked arms with Ethan and walked forward, step by step. The sunlight streamed down on us, warm and comforting. Where to next? I asked Ethan. To the airport, he said, squeezing my hand with a smile. To our new home. As the plane took off, I watched the city outside the window grow smaller, and suddenly felt incredibly light. Ethan held my hand and whispered in my ear, from now on, I am here for you. I leaned on his shoulder, and closed my eyes. 10 years of entangled love and hate had finally come to an end. Perhaps that's just how life is. You have to go through some melodrama and indignity to meet the right person. The wounds that once made you wish you were dead will eventually heal slowly with the balm of time, and those people you missed, the love you lost, were merely there to make you understand what is truly worth cherishing.